welcome to PC Politics, Real, Raw, Relevant. Brought to you by Spectacular Magazine. I'm your host, Phyllis Coley, CEO and publisher of Spectacular Magazine. This show will feature politicians, we're going to feature candidates, we talk to voters, and we talk about issues. Today, my guest is Regina Youngblood, Human Resource Director for the City of Durham. Hi, and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. So, tell me, how long have you been with the City of Durham, and then how long have you been the Human Resource Director?
The answer is the same for both. I've been the Human Resources Director for 6 years with the City of Durham.
So you weren't with the city before then?
No, I was not. I moved here from D.C., where I worked for D.C. Public Schools for 3 years and the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services for 1 year. Prior to my time in D.C., I lived in Dallas for about 12 years, working for Dallas Independent School District, and I'm originally from Chicago.
So a little bit of you've been all around.
Yeah.
All around. Well, on a previous show, of one of our PC Politics, we had an employee from the City of Durham who is also with the Durham City Workers Union, UE 150. During that interview, she talked about the union's initiative to have a fair grievance process or policy.
Mm-hmm.
In that interview, she talked about hiring, she talked about other things, but I'd like to kind of break that down and let's talk about it a little piece by piece. Let me first ask you, does the City of Durham have a grievance policy in place?
Yes, the city does have a grievance policy in place and has had one for many, many, many years, and that policy was in place long before I came to the City of Durham.
Okay, and now it seems that, based on the conversation that I had, but a lot of the things that have been in this policy, which has been in place for a while, have been rolled back.
That is a misconception. So the previous policy that was effective 2012, before I arrived in the City of Durham in 2014, did not articulate clearly what things could and could not be grieved. However, the process of grievance was exactly the same. The update that happened in 2016 only sought to clarify in writing what things were never grievable to begin with. And so it's a misunderstanding of the union and its representatives when they believe that the update of the policy is what prevented them from grieving the things that were enumerated there, but they were never able to grieve those things under the old policy.
But it just was not written.
It just was not written, but if they sought to file a grievance for one of the items that's listed now, they wouldn't have been able to grieve it.
Okay, so one of the things that they talked about was that if you're written up, if for some reason, and that goes into your personnel file, that you have no way to appeal that.
That is not true. So the process of appealing or making a rebuttal to a written reprimand is clearly articulated in the discipline policy. An employee has 10 business days to write an appeal, could be business or calendar days, to write an appeal and a rebuttal, and that rebuttal will go into the personnel file along with the write-up. The employee also and always has the ability to go beyond their supervisor to the supervisor's supervisor and following the chain of command and make an appeal to the department director, who can overturn the written reprimand. If the written reprimand stands after those actions, the employee within 3 years, after 3 years rather, has the ability to ask for the written reprimand to be removed from his or her personnel file, and we will remove it as long as that employee has not received any additional discipline in the 3 years surrounding the time of the request.
But would that not also mean that for 3 years, when it's time for their review or to get a raise, wouldn't those things still be in their folder, in their file?
Those things would still be in their folder, but one written reprimand 3 years ago is not going to be used to complete a performance evaluation for the immediate prior year. So that may have shown up in terms of some coaching feedback or some guidance or corrective action in the performance and review of the year where the written reprimand was received. But we ask our supervisors when we evaluate employees, it's based on their performance in that immediate preceding year, not what happened 2 and 3 years ago. Likewise, we wouldn't continue to give someone an exceeds expectations or a highly exemplary rating because they performed well 3 years ago, but they're not performing now.
How would they go about at 3 years? Does it automatically come out, or they have
must
to request it? Okay.
And it's written out in the policy, exactly what they need to do to request it.
Do you think that the policies work as well for management as they do for, some of the folk who may be off-site?
Sure.
Maybe they don't work. Maybe they work at one of the community centers or something. I'm not... do you think that the policies work where, we know we have to do this in 10 days, everything has to be in writing? Sometimes these are not people that are sitting at computers all day. Does that policy work?
I believe that the policy does work, especially in 2020 when most people have a computer in their pockets. And beyond the fact that people carry around smartphones, we make sure that every employee, frontline or administrative staff, has a city email address and access to a computer if necessary to conduct city business.
Where is this grievance policy available? I mean, is it in their orientation packet or?
So we talk about the policies during new employee orientation, but obviously an employee isn't thinking that they're going to get disciplined on their first day of work.
Correct.
And so what we also teach them in new employee orientation is where to find all of the policies on the city's intranet, we call it CODI, City of Durham intranet.
Okay.
Every employee has access to the policy site from inside the city's network and from home. And what our large operational departments typically do, especially in public works, water management, they print the policies out for employees and keep them in a binder.
Another one of the things that we talked about in the previous show, that was talked about, was the amount of turnover, especially in the water department, in community development, and in parks and rec. With the thought being that the turnover is so high because people are unhappy or not satisfied with their jobs. What would you have to say to that?
What I would say is the city's aggregate turnover rate is approximately 11%. And the departments that you named are right in line with the city aggregate. There are other departments that have higher turnover than that, but community development, water management, and parks and recreation are pretty well in line with the city's average.
Okay, but if you have one of the things they said is that so then people are having physical, situations where, they're being unhappy or unsatisfied or feeling grieved in their positions, their jobs, is causing them to be sick. That they're missing days from work for being sick. It's causing a lot of trauma, a lot of stress. Does the city have any type of process or program in place to address those things?
Absolutely. We have an employee assistance program through our partner ComSite Guidance Resources, and if an employee needs some assistance as it relates to counseling or help, it is provided to them for free through Guidance Resources. And so they can go up to 8 counseling sessions, and then if necessary be referred out to another treating physician. But what I want to clearly state is that is something that we provide for employees overall. I don't want to accept the premise that employees are utilizing the employee assistance program because of stress on the job. They might. I understand that was the basis of the question, but that has not necessarily been proven, especially in some of the circumstances that we've been aware of.
And then there was a circumstance where they talked about that a African-American employee who had been on the job for a while, a long time, I don't know the amount of years, but then someone else was hired over him, a younger white person, and then they were asked to train that person. Now, if that employee, and again we're talking hypothetical, they talk particulars, I'm talking hypothetical, but if that employee, that black male employee, was there a process that they could have grieved because they felt like that was just, was unfair?
No, there is not a process to grieve a hiring decision. they could have certainly had a conversation with the hiring manager and the department director, but there is no process to grieve a hiring decision.
Okay. So at this point, is there any communication between the Human Resources Department and UE 150, the Durham City Workers Union?
We respond to all of their questions and concerns. We don't have any regular or established meetings. We've sought to try to work cooperatively with the UE 150, but something that we do for the city is hold quarterly listening sessions with all employees, and many times the representatives from the UE 150 are there and asking questions about the things that are concerned to them.
Is there a fear of coming to the meeting that there might be retaliation?
I don't think so. There's usually over 200 people at that meeting.
Thank you so much, Regina. I've been talking with Regina Youngblood, who is the Human Resources Director for the City of Durham. And thank you so much for coming today. We wanted to give you and the City of Durham fair and equal time to discuss the issues that have been addressed.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. So, you've been watching PC Politics, Real, Raw, Relevant. I'm your host, Phyllis Coley, and until next time, see ya.
Spectacular Magazine. We on the scene.